Welcome back, everybody. You're watching the qualifiers for the biggest event ever hosted in Pakistani Esports by Galaxy Racer. And man, Talha, we saw a very hotly contested game where one of the biggest organizations for Valorant in Pakistan just got knocked out. Goodbye, we're not going to be seeing you at the Islamabad LAN Finals. And for clarity, it's new hopes brewing.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a dream come true, right? All the hard work that they've put in is finally paying off, and I'm really glad. You know, it's time we see teams that are putting in effort actually reach that spot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at Clarity, I think that their story was one of improvement, one of climbing an incredibly difficult uphill slope, and they've managed to do it now. It got incredibly close. It was 14-12 even in that last overtime, and for anybody tuning in late, that was the closest game we've seen so far, and I think that was one of the closest games ever in Pakistani Valorant. One that people were sort of expecting, but not to that degree, Talha. I mean, we saw, we thought that maybe the Salt being a bit dominant on map number 1 and being dominant throughout the first half of map number 2 would eventually bring a third map victory to fruition, but that wasn't the case at all. Clarity had some incredible composure to bring back a comeback, and that's how the story unfolded. But now we've got a brand new game on our hands. We've got Arrow versus GotyPeeks, and there's two storylines there, right? Either we get to see mustaches on LAN, or we get to see MSK missing from the analysis desk, because every time MSK
Win-win.
It's a bit of a win-win, because listen, man, if Arrow loses out, you already know that I'm gonna have MSK on the analysis desk with me eventually when we head over to Islamabad. But yes, we do want to get into the guts of this action. Talha, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I mean, this matchup, GotyPeeks, I mean, they have, you know, even though they're a newer Valorant team, they're newer to the scene, the players themselves, though, they aren't all that new. They have some all-star Counter-Strike players in their favor. And over on Arrow's side, you know, their biggest strength has always been MSK. He's one of the most veteran captains that we have in the scene. He really knows how to manage a team, really knows how to be that team leader, both in spirit and in the game. And I'm not sure if GotyPeeks, you know, their revival into the shooter scene is going to be enough to challenge that.
Yeah, so a lot of these players, I know that Bravo actually has played quite a bit of Valorant, and so have the rest of these players, to be perfectly honest. But what I'm really thinking about when I look at these names all together, I'm actually thinking about an older FPS title. I'm thinking about more traditional FPS games, and it would be really interesting to see GotyPeeks come out on top, because honestly, this is a relatively hastily put together lineup, specifically for tournaments like this one. But man, a quick reminder to the audience, the first place victor for the Valorant division will end up with 25 lakhs. That is 2.5. That is 2.5 million rupees. And the second, third, and fourth place, they're not going to be doing too terrible either. Now, I was saying that with the kind of knife play Beast came out on top with in the previous qualifier, that would probably earn something like best team, because they have already won our hearts. I think Clarity definitely done that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now Clarity aren't even out of the tournament. They might even end up coming out on top with the first place victor. Who knows? But we do get a chance to look at the schedule for anybody that hasn't really been catching up with all of the action. So far, we've seen Exploit and Fear Legends win out both of their games against Perfectionists and WDR in a 2-0 fashion, respectively. And the third one, that was a complete woozy. It was Clarity and Salt Esports going out neck and neck in a very hotly contested game. But it is time for us to dig into the final qualifiers before we head to Islamabad.
I mean, I hope it's a good one. I hope it's just as neck and neck, just as close as the third best of three, as Salt Esports versus Clarity. But, you know, anything can happen, because with the caliber of both of these teams, either one of these teams can snowball, or it's going to be neck and neck. But I'm not really sure, you know, this day is one in which we really can't call out a victor. Sure, for the first day, we did have Team Exploit. We knew that they were probably, you know, most certainly going to win, and they did in a very decisive fashion. But for this day, we don't really know which team is going to be coming out on top, especially because of the upset that we saw earlier.
Absolutely. I think GotyPeeks is still... I know for the most part, the first couple of games that we saw that were lined up for Fear Legends and Exploit, they were relatively one-sided as far as the rosters are concerned. But today, it's been very action-packed, and I don't expect that trend to be any different this time around. It is Arrow versus GotyPeeks, which are... I would say they're actually very hotly contested in terms of individual skill, but I can't really make any comments about how GotyPeeks is going to play when it comes to their brilliance as a team.
And I mean, we're looking at the format now. We already know which teams are going to go forward, but we already have one upset. We mentioned how we used to see Salt Esports coming out every time in those finals against Exploit, but now they've been eliminated. I don't think I have another upset inside of me. I really do want to see Team Arrow go forward, make it to that LAN final spot, but I'm really not sure considering their matchup.
Yeah, it's a weird tightrope to be walking, right? I mean, yes, you want to see upsets to happen, but do you really want to see all the legends missing from the LAN finals? Probably not. But at the same time, if GotyPeeks can somehow inch out a win against Arrow, more power to them. That means they just deserve to be in the LAN finals, and that's exactly why it should be very pressuring for Team Arrow. They want to make sure they don't lose to underdogs. In fact, for Arrow, for the likes of MSK, who have been building their legacy as the veterans of the Pakistani esports scene, it's very important to their name, to their brand as players, to make sure they come out on top and at least attend the LAN finals of the biggest ever esports tournament. But we are going to be heading straight into the veto to see how things are going to be unfolding. First pick coming up through GotyPeeks, it will be Bind. Then Haven picked up by Arrow. And the last map, the decider, will be Ascent. So listen, man, I'm just thanking my lucky stars it's not Fracture. I have sort of been selling this idea that maybe I want to see Fracture because I want to see a new map. No, that was all a lie, by the way, guys.
Really
I have
don't
no
wanna see that
idea
map.
how to cast that map. I don't even know the callouts. I don't even know what that door does. I don't even know what kind of meta would be suitable for it. And now that I'm in the quarterfinal, before I get a 2-week break to actually brush up on that knowledge, I can finally say that I don't know anything about Fracture. But let's get into it. Tultris, Bind, how do you feel about it?
I think this is more of a comfort pick for GotyPeeks, because if you look at the second map that was picked by Arrow, it is going to be Haven, and we know that Arrow is so strong on it. We know that they're so strong that Team Exploit, every time they play against Team Arrow, they ban that map. So it's interesting to see how they've let that go, but that's going to be the second map, right? The first map is going to be Bind. It has the most stable meta out of all of the maps, and for the first time for us, I'm really glad I get to see it. I get to see the KO finally come out in action. I want to see how well this does.
Is that actually going to be a Yoru pick from Bravo? You don't really see that
I
too
don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so.
is he?
Not for the finals, not even for day one event.
It would be very interesting to see if GotyPeeks are actually the one team that come out with the most unorthodox composition. That would be nutty.
But as far as the KO is concerned, there are not a lot of utility that he's going to be disabling from that suppression blade or his ultimate, save for the jet.
Oh,
but
sigh of relief. Bravo finally picked Sova. Continue.
what did he pick? I think I missed it.
Yeah, he picked Sova.
He picked
He
Sova.
didn't pick Yoru.
So
Thank
there's
God.
not a lot of utility that will stop that you can use against the other team if you are the KO. But the good thing is they have an absurd amount of information going their way. KO Suppression Blade is one of the best information gathering abilities in the game. Not only does it tell you how many people are there, it also tells you which agents were struck by that blade. And when you combine that with the Sova, that's deadly. But again, no Killjoy for either team.
Yeah, a bit surprising, especially when you know that B site is so easy to take care of just if you just have that lockdown, and even funneling players onto the other site can be an easy task just by having the presence of Killjoy. But you already know that if you're playing Bind, there's not a chance you don't pick Viper. And both teams, they're not going to be missing any Vipers from their composition. And in we go, quarterfinal. Before we head to the LAN final, Stultris.
And already such an aggressive maneuver by Team Arrow, positioning themselves protagonists, leading the fray out of the showers, but he's going to fall to Molly, and Edzia is going to trade him out. But that was a nice little double kill.
Absolutely. I mean, GotyPeek. If you're Arrow right now, you've got to be so worried. I mean, you're playing up against a team that is just a mixed lineup. All they want to do is they want to wreak havoc.
Team Arrow, they've paid a bit too much for that aggression. Losing 2 players in the shower area, perhaps one trade would have been worth it. But now with Gottschall's presence being detected by the recon bolt, they know that he's there. He needs to get out, and he will be making it out of the hookah. The Viper will be joining him to provide some cover fire, and with this, GotyPeeks, they're rotating again.
Yeah, and I think now Arrow have the right idea. It is going to be the eventual A side push, and the bomb should be going down very soon. Shani tucked himself into showers, and he is able to pick up a frag before things get too hotly contested. And with only 20 seconds remaining, the bomb is a complete doozy all the way to B. How quickly can Arrow even react to this? Yeah, SR being in the back lines, he's caught Shani off guard, and that means that Arrow are now in a 2 versus 3. Are they going to be losing the pistol round to an underdog team? We're about to find out. GotyPeeks, they've quickly nestled themselves into many corners, trying to find the initial duel, but no, it's just Goty and SR taking down the final couple of members from Arrow. What a showing.
Shani going down over there really broke their back for that retake. It would have gone much differently had one player came in from the teleport from the hookah side, but just the fact that they had no side angle to cover, just the fact that the only entrance they had was from the defender's spawn side, that made it very easy for GotyPeeks to actually just narrow down their sights onto Arrow. And the first round is going to go their way. Team Arrow, they're probably going to realize they're probably going to tone down on the aggression.
Listen, man, I'm already thinking of how I'm going to pitch MSK as the analyst for Galaxy Racer. Because, like, things aren't looking too good, man. No, but it is just the first round, obviously. I'm just making dumb jokes. GotyPeeks. Onto A they go. 3 members ready and waiting. They've got the red carpets lined up to wait for them. A bit difficult to actually find their way into the site. A 1-for-1 trade actually ending up in an advantage for GotyPeeks before they head onto the site. And Arrow, they find themselves locked in. They don't really have
One enemy remaining.
Very uncomfortable duel. Why did Gothchild not even have a gun out there?
But MSK, the last one alive, the captain, not going to be able to do much as SSR finishes off the round with a triple kill. Nice second round from GotyPeeks. I mean, their execution, I mean, sure it was an eco round, right? But the way they took that side, the way they covered the angles, even though protagonist got the kill with the shorty, he was instantly traded out. This is a game that's playing very carefully.
Are we feeling yet another map 3 already, Talha? Because I'm not sure if Arrow would allow a 2-0 to happen to them. And if GotyPeeks put up a great performance here, it's got to be the decider. I would never expect Arrow to go out in a 2-0 fashion. But of course, I am making some very far-fetched predictions. It's not even past the 3rd round just yet. But A site seems to be their destination. The Viper wall has been set up by Arrow to disallow vision to the side of GotyPeeks.
Oh, Suppression Blade finding 2 people. That Viper, he has no abilities for around 15 seconds.
And all moving right. And oh, he gets sucked back in by the gravity well and gets caught out by HZI. Protagonist as well, adding more bullets to the heads of the opposition. It's just Arrow. Oh, I thought they had an advantage for a second, but then SR immediately turned things around. But look at where the bomb is going. GotyPeeks, they don't want to commit to the A site anymore. Instead, they've decided to redirect all of their efforts to the B site, and that's where they're actually going to find a member waiting for them. It's Gothchild playing within the site tunnel.
Standing ahead.
Oh, I had not seen that banner before.
Yeah, me neither, really.
But SR is going to find himself in a tricky spot as Gottchild is going to get the better of him. And the rotations, they are going to come in with Bravo holding his own on the side, but he's outgunned, outmaneuvered, and MSK is going to finish him off. First round win going in favor of Arrow, and that was a big one because that was the first gun round.
It was actually totally reasonable for SR to get that duel. oh sorry, get that round had he actually managed to secure that final duel. Because then he would have had reasonable amounts of time to actually get the bomb down and maybe carve it out into a 1 versus 1. But the duels simply don't go their way, and Arrow, they're immediately going to have a resurgence as soon as they've gotten their hands on weapons.
SR has no weapon, just a sheriff to his name. And that's going to be a bit disadvantageous for them as they go into this gun round. I mean, sure, Arrow have a Spectre, but that's definitely still more powerful than the Sheriff at the very least. But looks like they're going to make an attempt at the hookah. Shiny trying to get away, but there's so much utility being thrown at him. Just can't make his way outside, but going to find 1 kill before he goes out. Will be traded out by Hadal.
Yeah, it looked very messy, but it still only amounted to 1 kill on either side.
I thought with the amount of utility being thrown at him, he would have gone down instantly, but instead, managing to find that kill, he should be more than happy with that.
But look at where they're rerouting their efforts now. GotyPeeks going all the way to B, but they're not even approaching it from hookah at all. Bally getting the smokes lined up now as they move on to B. 2 players this time waiting for them. Godchild, the rock that has always held down B, but now he's also joined by 8ZI. You can very quickly flash out for his squad. Stun doesn't really work out in his favor, and he's going to serve as a distraction while the crux of the action is taken care of by Godchild. The smoke subsides, he gets the first kill, and 8ZI is trying to use his own teammate as bait, and he manages to get the second frag. SR and Hadal start to chime into the fray as well, but it comes down to a disadvantage for GotyPeeks. 8ZI flashing his opponent. SR gets caught through the wall, and say 2 and 2.
HCI, I mean, absolute champ right there, holding that angle like that, using that flash to perfection was very well executed. I mean, GotyPeeks, they just simply did not have the chance to cross over to the second half of that site. As SGI now leads the scoreboard with 6 kills to his name, ultimate at the ready, and that's a very dangerous one, particularly if you are the attacking side. If you are going for that spike plant, that ultimate can take you out.
Going Astro, guys.
Yeah, Arrow have managed to immediately bounce back after the first few signs of brilliance from GotyPeeks. Protagonist
Get out of my way.
playing a very narrow angle, which should get him some information. Spotted by the knife. 1-for-1 trade. The opposing jet has been taken out by Hadal. And now they've got to make a call. Do they immediately commit to A, or do they want to reroute their efforts to B? If they do end up marching on to A, they would have to deal with 3 different players.
The jet is too low for this. Just 34 HP. Hadal, the only one in the showers. Just 1 bullet away from his demise. And I mean, the only way GotyPeeks go in is either from the short position or the shower, but it looks like they're going to go in simultaneously. Hadal leading the fray with those arrows. The smoke's going to give him some cover, but going to get taken out by MSK, and with that, the rest of his team is also falling, only down to the Sova, who's found himself in the middle of the site, but nowhere to go for Bravo. They don't know where he is just yet, but with those footsteps, Shiny's going to know exactly what to do.
I would be really disappointed. Sorry for cutting you off, Talha. I would be really disappointed if we don't see another resurgence from GotyPeeks. I don't want this to be a one-sided game at all. You know, before Arrow make it to the LAN Finals, I need to see a bucket of sweat pour out from MSK's forehead, or it's not an entertaining game, right?
Absolutely, and I mean, they haven't won any round since the pistol round. They've lost all of the gun rounds, and those are the most important ones. Those are the ones that decide which team is going to win.
Nice opener from Bally. I think Protagonist got a bit too cocky there and went for a wide peek, which simply didn't grant him enough of an opportunity to go back. But now GotyPeeks know that they have a fair opportunity of taking the B side, but no, it's Godchild ripping them apart, not giving them an inch. That's 3 players going down like nothing, and 8ZI is happy to pick up the pieces.
That was a very lackluster attempt from GotyPeeks. I mean, they took out Protagonist, which, by the way, is no small feat. Protagonist with that operator, he does not miss many shots, but the fact that they took him out and still chose to execute in that lackluster fashion was slightly disconcerting, to say the least. And now 4-2. I mean, like you said, Faraz, it's GotyPeeks needs to show just a bit of force, you know, outside of that pistol round, outside of those few rounds.
Yeah, now we see the pistols come out from GotyPeeks, and that should mostly be a throwaway round for them. Let's see if they can make those pistols work. Ooh, MSK. Nearly got caught out there by the player in showers.
Poison's off.
I really like it when IGLs play super utility heavy agents, because then you know that they're focusing on the big brain plays, like MSK right now playing Viper. It allows him to focus on most of his team's direction, but here they come. Sheriffs being lined up. Shanny has been spotted, but with 8ZI's rotation, this can't really be too easy of a round.
It's going to be really difficult. Their resources are so diluted. I mean, towards the shower area, two players towards the edge short. It's not a position where you want to play at. But it was a pistol round. I mean, it wasn't exactly an eco since they all bought sheriffs, so they went at it with 5 sheriffs instead of just 1 or 2 players picking it up. But that was an easy enough, or secure enough rather, round for Arrow. But coming back to what you said, Faraz, about, you know, MSK picking the in-game leaders rather picking up utility-centric roles, it's slightly surprising to see how MSK is not playing the breach. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a game that Arrow has played up on the breach where MSK was not playing that agent, so I'm looking forward to it. GotyPeeks, though, they have the KO ultimate at the ready should they choose to go for a fast execution on this site.
Yeah, they've got 4 ultimates. That.
Oh, now we do see the KO ultimate come out. No utility for Team Arrow. Just their firepower. Will it be enough? But SCI will take out Goty. He's down and now someone needs to revive him. But SR is going to come in with a clean double kill. Going to buy us some time. The revive is going to come out. It's going to be Bravo reviving his fallen comrade. And with that, Arrow only 2 players over the defending spawn side. The Viper and the Jet. But I don't think, the way they're positioned, or with the fact that their positions are entirely known to GotyPeeks.
I think it is something we anticipated, that GotyPeeks would end up using some of their ultimates to get into the site, but what I'm really happy about is that they're actually quite economical about it. It's only their KO that ends up expending his utility, just to make sure that Arrow have the, very little utility to work off of. Now, of course, that means that GotyPeeks also have the additional comfort of using those ultimates later. They still have the ultimate on Brimstone, they have the Viper ultimate as well. So quite a few rounds can just be carved out on the basis of having that extra util.
That was very well played by MSK, managing to kill Bravo and secure the operator for the next round. That's nice damage control coming out from the captain.
Yeah, it should be passed over to Protagonist, who, by the way, isn't really performing too well. I know it's still the very first few rounds of the game, but you still have kind of, like, I think most of the viewers have grown accustomed to Protagonist being that one guy that barely ever misses a shot with the operator. So to see him in this position, it is a bit uncharacteristic of the brand behind that name.
And I mean, just to give you a little context about Protagonist, he, you know, when Arrow was facing elimination back in Infinity Cup, Protagonist managed to keep them in the game with an ace of all things while his entire team was down and out. So he's certainly someone that likes to shine.
One of the ultimates has already been expended at the benefit of not really doing much damage. Only their Viper has taken a bit of a scratch.
And Chinese gonna pay for his aggression. This might just pave the way for an eventual rotation on towards the B side. As soon as Sova clears it out, you know, probably going to use the recon pole.
Revealing area.
Yeah, the problem with that push is that now Arrow aren't comfortable about staying on any bomb site at all. But on to A they go. It seems like Arrow have at least picked the right side to have most of their members on. MSK, first kill for him, actually manages to get the
30
second one
seconds
as
left.
well, and he's only got 2 points of health remaining.
One
Can he
enemy
do more
remaining.
damage? Yes, he can.
Spike
3K for
down
the
A.
Captain. And there's only one man left on the squad of GotyPeeks. They're Brimstone, 150 HP, so he can still do something, but that's exactly what the operator's for.
And Protagonist, I mean, I'm glad he's finally coming back into the game. Can't be missing those shots, but MSK, man, were an absolute beast. Just 2 HP remaining, taking out those 2 players and even managing to find a KO afterwards. All the KO needed to do was land just 1 shot on him. But MSK was too quick on the trigger.
What a madman. He had 2 points of health. How was he able to get that third kill? Who knows? Is that good old Captain energy?
Oh, Protagonist is going to get a double kill with that operator. Perfect peek from him.
And he even has heals ready for him. So he doesn't really get punished at all, with the exception of his armor being lost. That is 2 free kills for the man. And it seems like he's heard me. We've seen this happen time and time again, where we criticize something, we talk about something, and it immediately turns around, Talha. The ops now working.
Oh, it's interesting. GotyPeeks are still choosing to go forward from the hookup position, but they are going to pay for it as
Interesting,
NCI
yes.
is going to get a double kill. Probably the only one surviving. Oh, Protagonist, that shot just, I think, narrowly missed his head.
I don't think it actually missed. I think it hit Bravo through the box. That's
I think it hit him through the box and the wall, because I think if it goes through the box alone and hits his head.
Okay. I think Bravo might have gotten a bit too comfortable here. He's already gotten 3 kills. And he also has information on Protagonist, but he still has to deal with 2 players, and he doesn't know if there's a flank.
I love how he's still
30
choosing to
seconds
maintain
left.
this position.
Yeah, not backing off. Instead, he's going to wait long enough so that one of the players from Arrow rotates all the way around to the A site, and if he can manage to isolate the duel on Protagonist, that's going to be such an easy victory for him. Bravo, moving straight on to B. There it is, the kill onto Protagonist. The gravity well does slow him down a little bit longer, but now he's brought it down to just 1 member. Can he deliver? No! So close, yet so far.
But getting the better of Protagonist over there, I really did not think that would have ended up that way.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Talha, but that's 4 guns being wasted.
That is true, and I mean, it was absolutely insane how he managed to do that, considering his position was revealed and knew exactly where he was, but just not able to compensate for it in any way. Team Arrow, even though they won that round, it's still not a decisive victory for them. They still lose out a lot on those resources. Still a comfortable lead though. 7-3, 5 rounds up. 4 rounds up, rather. My maths is very... not that great.
Does medicine require a lot of math?
Thankfully not.
Ooh, ultimate from Brimstone being put out. GotyPeek want to hop straight out of hookah, but Godchild does what Godchild does best. 2 kills for the man, but GotyPeek, they still have the advantage.
Oh, with the Viper's Pit deployed, Protagonist with that operator, he's not going to find much use for it. As all players of GotyPeek huddle inside the Viper's Pit and behind it. The Hunter's Fury is at the ready as well. It's just so difficult to secure the spike defuse.
1 enemy remaining.
Protagonist going to find the knife kill, but still he's holding on to that operator. He has an idea where Bally is going to switch to that Vandal, but that Vandal had no bullets inside of it.
It would have been better if he had the operator. I mean, if you're going to fire 1 shot, might as well have 150 points of damage in it.
But that's unfortunate. You know what would have been a next level play was if Bally left that Vandal there with 1 bullet inside for him to pick up. That's like 5D chess.
It's not like that would have been a next level play. That was a next level play. That's how you have to portray it to the viewers, man. You got to learn to lie on broadcast. Like I lied about knowing how to cast Fracture. Or at least pretending that I did.
7 and 4 now. GotyPeeks, they are bringing their way back into the game. Protagonist, though, not going for that operator. Will grab himself that Vandal. He had enough credits for it, but instead going for that aggression. There is a Bravo there. Oh, he's going to go for that drone. They're going to take the drone out, but they didn't follow the chase. But he's going to try and get the jump on Shani. But little did he know
That actually
there were
worked
3
against
players
him.
waiting for him.
Protagonist, how are you running around willy-nilly? Like, that nearly had the 3rd kill as well, but no, it's not covered. Arrow only losing 1 member to be able to pick up 3, and MSK, he's just styling on them. MSK and
Switching
HZI are
sides.
leading the charge right now with 11 kills apiece. And this is such a good half for them, 8 and 4. Really can't ask for something something much better, but at the same time, now they've got the responsibility of being on the attack side.
I'm glad GotyPeeks are giving, you know, a fight to Team Arrow, if anything else. But, you know, if they want to win this series, they really do need to get this pistol round. They can't afford to play from an 8-4 score line going into the second half, losing the pistol round. They need to secure it. And the good thing for them is they have a KO and they have a Sova, and with only 2 spike sites, they could station both of them at these separate sites, use the suppression blade early on and get some very early info. It is an AoE effect, and it has a very large area. Hadal going to find as a first kill, but meanwhile Protagonist is going to dash forward to his death as the KO takes him out.
Oh, Hadal, he could have done more off of that position, but just peeking into 2 players doesn't do him any favors. It is the pistol round, however, and if GotyPeeks can get some momentum built off of it, that would be ideal.
Oh?
MSK quickly brings things back. He's not got too much HP, but he's still willing to dish out some damage. Danny. He's probably going to take contact with Bally, but right now, Arrow still have to make a decision. Do they stick to A? Because if they do, they have to run into the bomb site that has the most members. But if you look at the radar, now they're only going to be leaving their Brimstone tucked into lamps. And if Arrow decide to push in now, this is an ideal case scenario. MSK, does manage to... His life is saved because of the fact that Bally's picked up by Gotcha, but now it's 2 versus 3. Still very reasonable for GotyPeeks to get, although they did start with an advantage, so I would have liked to see more.
And no heal available for MSK, so he's going to have to stay at this HP as SR makes his way towards the lamp area, but not going to find anyone just yet, as all players from Arrow are tucked in neatly with Gotcha revealing himself. Oh, but Bravo's going to find the kill onto MSK, but Shani is going to trade out SR, and now they know where Bravo is, trying to find his way onto Shani, but even if he got Shani there, the sky was there to protect him, so...
Looks nice and easy so far for Arrow, and now that we see the weapons come out, GotyPeeks will find themselves in a position where they're fighting back with Sheriffs. And listen, man, I don't know what GotyPeeks exactly means, but if it's anything like Goty's performance right now, then I know exactly why they're losing.
That made no sense for us.
Listen, man, if you say Ferrari peak, it's supposed to mean you're peaking fast like a Ferrari, right? If that's a GotyPeeks, you know exactly why they're losing out on every single peak. Come on, man. What's so hard about that?
But now Arrow, they're going to make a fast execute on towards the B side. Protagonist, he's probably going to dash in at the first chance he gets, but he needs to be very careful because of this cross angle that GotyPeeks has for them, both the KO and the Viper across from each other. So what to protect the elbow. Now Protagonist does dash forward, trying to find a way to secure the side, but the smokes are going to hold everything. 2 players already falling to MSK, and meanwhile though, everyone just dying from GotyPeeks, not being able to find anything. And not even being able to enter anywhere close to the site. Now both players have been pushed out towards the defender spawn side, and Goty, you know, like you said, He would have fallen
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, that was a GotyPeek.
I had no idea what Goody means, so I was trying to make a pun, but I couldn't think of anything. But you know what's surprising? It's surprising to see MSK top the chart for his team, and that's not to say that he's he lacks some sort of mechanical skill or something. I'm just saying the star players on his team are Godchild and Protagonist as far as getting those pickoffs go, as far as getting those kills go, and we're really seeing Godchild and Protagonist struggle in that regard, not having found much. Protagonist had some amazing plays with the Vandal once and with the Operator, but he really does need, well, he doesn't need to step up since there's 10-4, but I would like to see him step up though.
Yeah.
Toxin screen down.
Obviously, you can say that this is enough of a landslide victory for Arrow for this to not matter, but when it does, that's when it's going to start to count. GotyPeek, now that they finally got money on the defense, they're also teetering dangerously close to the finish line for Arrow. Only
Well,
3
the
rounds
way
away
that
from it.
SR has positioned himself, I don't think they're ready for another dash in by Protagonist. I mean,
Toxin screen down.
he's going to try to land some shots, but the Hooker is a very dangerous space against all this utility. Now going to try to find something, going to land a double kill before he goes out. And now Protagonist is going to dash in, coming onto Hadal, but he will be able to take him out. Bravo trying to hold the elbow position, will be take down the Spike Carrier as well as Godchild. And Protagonist is going to take out Goty in return, but it's a 1v2 situation. Quickly turning into a 1v1 as Protagonist getting that triple kill, trying to find the last player alive, but just not able to.
That was such a messy duel, by the way. For a second there, I thought Protagonist had it simply because of the number of shots being missed, but no, that's not it at all. 10-5 now, and Arrow, they still are within arm's reach. I don't think GotyPeek are entirely out of it, but you can see that GotyPeek immediately want to capitalize on this small advantage they've managed to carve out for themselves. They go for a timeout, they want to get a chance for a breather, they want to talk to each other a little bit. And one of their best chances at appearing in the LAN Finals, it entirely hinges around just winning their own map pick. They've got the decider to think about, but what really scares me is that Arrow will be a completely different beast when they get to play on their own map pick.
And considering what we know of Team Arrow, they've always done really well on Haven, and it's going to be a very different ball game when you play up against them on that map. It's something that even Team Exploit are very careful of. And GotyPeek, if they want to stay in this best of 3, then their best shot is to take this map and then to play on the eventual tiebreaker after Haven. But with the scoreline as it is, it looks very difficult for GotyPeeks as they face a 5-round deficit. And now Team Arrow, they're making their way on towards the A side. A bit of a default position, but not exactly, as only one player is over on the B side.
Yeah. I would be very excited to see the uphill climb of GotyPeek, but unfortunately for them, Arrow, they're no slouches at all. I think this is one of the teams that, after their little roster shuffle, with Godchild being brought back into the mix, I think it's one of the teams that is contending with Exploit right now. So I'm a bit uncertain about whether or not GotyPeek has what it takes, but that's exactly why they're here to prove themselves.
Arrow have to be careful though. The KO Suppression Blade, if used on the shower, is going to catch out 3 people and make the utility redundant. But as I say, that Protagonist is going to dash forward. Before that comes out, Godchild is going to clear the way for Protagonist, and with Goty falling, the spike being planted, GotyPeek are scrambling to try and take some sort of control as 2 players from Arrow fall, both Protagonist and the captain, but HCI is trying to hold the lamp position, will be able to secure it as 3 players fall, and with only the Sova left, Bravo 2 isolated, smokes blinding his vision. He has no vision of the site of the other half, and his only shot is to make his way towards the lamp area, but he's going to come onto HCI. Nice little kill there, but he has a long way to go, and with his position revealed, Godchild is simply going to back away from him and will let Shani do the work for him.
Oh, I love that, because Bravo, had he gotten the kill on Godchild, that would have allowed him to at least get it down to a 1 versus 1 and turn around, and maybe he would have even checked Channy's angle, but no. Just because he's focused on that one duel, he gets baited out. If you look at the kill distribution from GotyPeeks, they actually have a player that is matched with HZI, they have is matched with MSK, and the top 2 players, SR and Bravo, they're actually not doing too terribly as far as their comparison with the Arrow players go. But everybody else on the squad, they're really leaving a lot to be desired, especially Goty, because I know he's got his name in the team's name, but he's not really living up to that privilege. Knowing that he's only had 4 kills since basically the first few rounds of the game. I kind of forgot that there was a KO in the game, to be perfectly honest, with how little impact he's had. And I know I'm sounding harsh, but that's just the truth.
We haven't really seen much use of the suppression plate so far. I mean, considering it's a utility that always comes with you, you don't really have to buy it. It's something that should be spammed, especially at the start of a round, but not really using it against Team Arrow. He did, use the ulti once to secure his team the round. That was a very nice little use of the KO, but just not finding much after that. And now, as Team Arrow rotate away from the A side, they're going to find themselves in front of a Viper's pit as soon as they have some sort of vision. As Bravo and the Viper are sitting there ready for them. Godchild providing some nice little distraction, but
30 seconds left.
Bravo is going to hold his position. He's right over there, and they need to be careful. They need to clear that angle out. But Shani is going to teleport away. I think they saw that Viper split and they decided that this is not worth it. And Bravo will realize this as well as all of them rotate away. The Brim is there, though NZI just has an axe out, not the place where you want to be. And Bally trying to buy his team some time, but he will fall. But his players, his teammates have made their way one onto the heaven position. Bravo trying to do something, but against 4 people, it's a very tough ask.
Healing over here.
Yeah, it's looking super easy for Arrow right now. GotyPeek had barely any response there. Just 2 members remaining. They've already made the call. It's time to back off. It's time to tuck yourself in the corner. And I say that, but SR, for some reason, he peeked out. Maybe I would have really liked to see him save a weapon or 2.
Oh, Bravo
and give himself a better chance on that. But yeah, no, not a chance. Bravo lives when there's MSK in the back lines. And so far, Arrow might actually be the only team that has showed us an expected performance, because even when we saw the game from Exploit in the second map, it got super dicey, and I think that can be both a good and a bad thing. It can be good in the sense that Arrow is looking super polished, but it could also be bad. Like maybe Arrow are just playing in the same way that they would in the LAN Finals, which kind of telegraphs their game plan to the rest of the teams.
Revealing area.
I mean, as you said, but I mean, look, Protagonist is not playing as well as we're used to seeing him play, right? And it seems like MSK has improved upon his abilities, so it's going to be interesting to see how that translates forward.
Yeah, and that has been one of the highlights of the game for me, because MSK's never really been a fragger bait. And with that being changed, super excited to see how far this new and improved Arrow can go. But 3-on-3, the last lifeline for GotyPeek to stay in map number 1. They've got to get the clutch now if they want to start the slow crawling ascent. Doesn't seem very likely that they're going to be able to do anything about it, but there's still a... You saw I got a bit excited about maybe Bravo finding a kill, but no, it's just me pretending that I think they have a chance, especially with just more utility, more players staring that final member down. Nothing he can do. It's already the final round for Arrow, and there's simply not enough time. I like how they're just going for everything there at the end. They're like, yep, Astral Divide, we're going to bite him down with the Hound as well, just like really hit him with everything. My man, Talha, pretty expected win, wasn't it?
It was pretty expected, and it was pretty clean as well how Arrow managed to secure it. I mean, you talk about execution, you talk about strategy, you talk about teamwork, and Arrow really had checked all of those boxes, save for the one where we didn't see a convincing performance come out from Protagonist. But, perhaps he didn't need to feel the need for it. Perhaps, Protagonist has developed some sort of skill like shooter where they don't want to reveal those strategies just yet. Who knows, right?
That would be really strange, though. Imagine saying that I don't want to try hard because I don't want them to see how good I am. Like it's not even like you're hiding strategies or something. No, you're just like not clicking on them.
But have we ever seen a game in which MSK is the one doing all the fragging for his team?
Is that their strategy? MSK is pretending to be good? No hate to MSK. I mean, yeah, the only reason I can meme on him is because he's one of my best friends in real life, and that's why it kind of sucks to be best friends with broadcast talent, because then they're gonna meme on you a lot more than if you didn't know them. But Talha, any closing thoughts about that game? You think it's gonna be different on map number 2? You think GotyPeeks still have it? I mean, they don't have Goty for sure. They just have Peaks remaining now because Goty wasn't part of the game.
Peaks remaining. The problem is that Arrow is just so strong on Haven, and that's not just my opinion. That's what the general circuit thinks about them as well. That's what Team Exploit thinks about them. Every time those guys go at it, Team Exploit bans out that map against Team Arrow. It's something that they're very execute heavy on. It's something that they've perfectly pinned their strategies for, and if I were GotyPeeks, I mean, I don't know how to change things up, especially considering the performance that we just saw. So I'm really not sure for us.
Me neither. And so far, the biggest difference I'm seeing is also an individual skill. I know it is a bit of a meme as well, but for the most part, if you look at their score lines, I mean, Goty wasn't performing very well. Hadal, who I know is honestly one of the best aimers I've personally seen, he's not performing that well either. SR, he's falling off. So, like, who can you really blame? Who can you really expect to step up? That's probably the bigger question than the blame itself. So, Talha, heading into the second game, is there any particular player you've got your eyes on from GotyPeeks, expecting for them to turn up?
I mean, I've seen a bit of SR, right? I've seen a bit of SR from the Calyx tournament, and he did have a good run. Sure, his team didn't make it very far, but he had a few kills here and there. The problem is that they're playing against very heavy hitters, and you can't just change things up like that. But one thing that can work is some sort of cheese strat, for Haven, but it's something that is probably not going to work on Team Arrow. I mean, look, if it was any other map other than Haven, I could suggest something for them, but all I can do right now is give them my hopes and prayers. Really.
Especially because on a map like Haven, just because of how it's structured, I feel like individual skill matters even more, because there's, especially on the defensive side, there's so much more pressure on individuals to hold things down under lock and key. Time and time again, just one player playing his cards right can entirely change the outcome of the game. And I think a map that forces you to spread your resources thin also automatically funnels you into your skills being tested as an individual.
I mean, there are certainly a lot more duels, individual duels that happen up on Haven rather than team fights. I mean, the only team fights you usually see on Haven are those that are executed on towards a site. Outside of a site, it's just duels that are happening. It's just utility being thrown around. It's just information being gathered. And this is something that GotyPeeks can actually do, utilize that information a lot better, utilize that strategy a lot better, get those duels off, have each other's backs, and then execute onto a site. But you can't take Team Arrow 5v5. You're going to lose that one.
All right, we are going to be heading into the match MVP, though. You want to take any bets on who isn't the match MVP? My bet is Goty, but okay, that was the final one. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna give Goty too much flack. And the reason I'm giving him a lot of flack is because the caster's curse has been jinxing everything today. So like, if I keep saying stuff about him, I'm hoping that things are going to turn around. Maybe he top frags in the second map, but it is going to be none other than Ghostchild with 18 kills and 2 first bloods. So obviously it wasn't really easy to pick out a map MVP for that particular game. It's and that's because Team Arrow, they were so evenly distributed throughout the game. I mean,
absolutely,
you saw that no particular player was actually getting a fair shot at farming kills. You saw MSK running around with a gun. You saw Ghostchild getting a lot of openings for himself. It's all across the board. There are very few instances where you would see one player being pressured more than the other. So it does ultimately lead to having a map MVP by a very small margin.
And like you said, it's all players on Team Arrow evenly distributed, and it just goes to show, you know, Godchild, Protagonist, that's a lot of star power, you know. Previously, where Team Arrow only had Godchild or only had Protagonist, now they have a version of a team which has both of those players playing for them. So that's a deadly combination. I mean, no matter which way you look at it, in a matchup against Team Arrow, the MVP is probably going to go to Godchild or Protagonist. But looking over at towards the scoreboard, we do get a glimpse of what these guys are capable of, with Godchild obviously leading the scoreboard and MSK not too far behind. You know, I thought MSK would actually be the MVP of that one, but that would have been too good to be true, you know. But
yeah, it just never really happens.
Never really happening. But GotyPeeks, though, they did put up quite a bit of a performance. Normally when you see a stomp, you don't really see 3 or more players entering those double-digit figures, but with GotyPeeks that was not the case, right? 3 of their players have crossed that double-digit mark with 12, 14 and 11 kills. And Goty, though, the one who was struggling the most, so perhaps what they should change is give him a more laid-back role or a more utility-centric role rather than a role that relies on getting those frags out.
And that's the problem, right? Because even on the first map, he was playing an agent that is more utility heavy. His job is relatively simple. You've got to disable the enemy, you have to sniff them out using your knives, right? And maybe have supportive flashbangs as well for the rest of your squad to move in. But even with that, we saw very little impact come out from Goty. I think there was one round where they were able to use an ultimate to get onto a site, but even that didn't end up working out in their favor. So, so in so many instances, impact was really missing out. And I would actually love to see Goty in more of an offensive role, so we can see a contrast with how he plays in that when he's got more tools to work with, as opposed to being more utility centric. But maybe we get a chance to see that, because we are going to be heading straight into the Agent Select to see how Haven is going to unfold. Perhaps we see it end in 2 maps, and maybe GotyPeeks turn things around. Maybe Goty starts stepping up, and instead of 4, he gets 40 kills. Who knows?
But I'm glad that he's decided to change things up, you know, picking up that Killjoy. It's an agent which is very much utility-centric. But the problem is it's an agent that needs to be alive for that utility to kick in the first place.
Oh, ouch.
What do you mean? I mean, the Killjoy needs to be alive for the
yeah, and you're implying that Goty's not going to be alive? Why
I'm
would you say
saying
that?
he needs to be alive, right?
Okay.
So the need for it makes his position such that he can stay back, he can play a more laid-back role, while his teammates, you know, while the Jet does the killing for him, while Bali does the killing for him. But you know, it's still a very long way to go against Team Arrow. And something that's interesting is I don't think I've seen many games in which Arrow has not picked up the breach for this map. But we're going to see it happen again. And correct me if I'm wrong, I do not think we saw a Killjoy come out earlier on in the day, in game number 2, I think, of Assault versus Clarity.
Yeah, I don't think we did. And part of the reason is that in that game, Clarity versus Salt Esports, both of the teams actually opted to pick Cypher on Haven instead. So this is stylistically very different. You can either have an agent that can entirely hold down a site by herself but has limited vision, or you can pick an agent that will give you advanced information but rely on rotations from the rest of your team. So you can see it's very different, but I do want to see how much this game differs and how it's played out in between these two teams. But GotyPeeks, they still have another chance. They can still very easily, well, not very easily, very reasonably win out map number 2 and potentially take it to map number 3, Tultris.
It's a long road ahead of them, though. I do hope that they manage to do it. I mean, I know for a fact that I would love to see, you know, what they have planned should they make it to the finals in Islamabad.
Listen, man, I know that GotyPeeks is a hastily put together roster, which means they have about as much preparation for the finals as I do for Fracture. But heading straight into the pistol round, it'll be Protagonists to take first contact. Looking around the smoke, Shani already taking the bomb down. And SR, for a change of pace, it's actually Arrow losing the first member.
And I mean, it's a bit of a stalemate over here with neither team going in, but Hadal is going to walk right into Edzai's face and he will fall. Bally is trying to go for that defuse. Oh, but that shock dart taking out 2 people behind the smoke, and that's going to be the entry point that they needed. Godchild is going to go in and finish it off. That shock dart. How is MSK doing this? I mean, yesterday I got a notification that he started streaming and he was playing some racing game. Yeah. When did he get the practice in?
It makes perfect sense. He's racing to the finish line.
Okay.
So obvious.
If he had done this earlier, we would have seen him win more.
Oh God. Maybe back in the CS days. That's what was missing, huh?
But first round going in favor of Team Arrow. It's a bit different as GotyPeeks did get the first round in the first map, but Arrow even more decisive for the next one, and Gotcha securing the first blood, and Team GotyPeeks, they have to back away from this as SRR will fall and the Killjoy forced to move out, but he will come on to Protagonist. These guys, they're just running around and getting gunned down. And 2-0 now. I mean, it was an eco round, but it's slightly disturbing how lackluster their movement feels, where Team Arrow can just pick off anyone that they want.
So far, it does feel like Arrow's gonna have yet another comfortable game, which is not something I'm a big fan of. You know, I love those underdog victories.
I want to see, you know, both Clarity and Salt. You could feel the tension in the air. I want to see Arrow feel the tension.
And it would probably be good practice for the LAN Finals to feel the pressure before you head up to before you head to Islamabad. And this could potentially be the round where the pressure starts. Bally secures the first kill, and Arrow playing off of the disadvantage. They want to move straight on to C, but that is entirely denied by SR, who's playing off of a vertical angle.
And with that, Arrow is forced to back away. The smokes are going to provide that distraction
One enemy remaining.
as they exit their wave, but already Edzai is going to fall. MSK, the captain, the only one left, but he's boxed in a corner. Does manage to deal quite a bit of damage, but will fall for it. And the Spectre will be picked up by the Vandal. All guns now for GotyPeeks, and I mean, previously, where in the first map where they won the pistol round but struggled to win the gun rounds, that was a very decisive win, and that goes to show that they do have what it takes. I mean, they're playing on the defensive side, and they managed to get the better of them, managed to stop the execute that Arrow was planning.
I think one thing that really sucks for GotyPeeks right now is that they have to go up against the attack side of Arrow early on in a map that really doesn't favor. But if they can show us that they've got what it takes on the defense, then I'm definitely willing to bet there's going to be a map number 3. But this first half is really where GotyPeeks is going to be tested. First kill has been collected, so things do become a bit easier for GotyPeeks. But no, Edzai, all he needs is a pixel to make things more difficult. The ground beneath them is burning as GotyPeeks realize that they need all hands on deck for every single round. Edzai trying to keep them busy over towards mid, while most of the action actually heads over towards A. There's only one member waiting from the side of GotyPeeks to deal with this kind of action. But yep,
right there. Going to spot them all out, giving away the information that all of Arrow are rotating, and with this, Hadal is going to position himself right on top of the box. Will they be able to catch him out? Godchild does see him, though he has to back away from this position. He's going to try, and Bally's going to provide enough cover fire for him. Godchild, the only one finding anything over here. As it quickly turns into a 1v2 with Edzai coming in from the defender's spawn side. Hadal knows where he is. Bravo is going to be successful. That was a bit dicey. Bravo was very low there.
Yeah, it could have actually been around for HZI, if anything. But now we see an early tie-up, and it's on the defensive side of GotyPeeks. So I'm not going to count them out just yet. And perhaps we see map picks being exchanged in a similar fashion as to what we saw in the previous matchup. Definitely within reach for either squad. And listen, man, these players are incredibly talented, especially if you look at their individual skill. SR, Hadal, Bravo, Bali, Goty, like, they're names that have stuck around the esports scene for quite a while. Especially, I think, individually, Hadal and SR are probably the ones that stick out the most, maybe even Bali. So I do want to see a much better performance from them, and there's sort of a skill floor that they can drop to that is still high enough for them to get quite a few rounds. But heading into the 5th round, with a minute and 20 seconds on the clock, there still have been no engagements at all, but the bomb is heading onto A site.
An Arrow, they're choosing to move in towards where all the Killjoy utility is placed. They're going to have to be careful. Remember, guys, the Killjoy utility, the turret, it's so difficult to take out when you have nothing but pistols on your side. But as I said, that GotyPeeks does find a neat little pick-off over on GotyPeeks, as protagonists will fall for it. But you know, you need to maintain those long angles. Perhaps C long would be the best side to go for if you have grabbed yourself those sheriffs, but they're going to still try and go towards A as they move into the site. Shani is going to find the kill as well. Somehow they're making it work as Goty is the only one to find anything here, with MSK falling, the captain down and out. The rotations coming in, one player positioned towards the heaven, one player coming from the defender spawn side, but the Astral Divide is going to give them that pause. There's nothing he can do. His only option is to either drop down and face death or back away from this. As SR will choose the farmer, but as he does that, his teammate has already fallen. He's going to try and make something happen as he will fall to SCI.
What I'm
That
really
was a
worried
very
about
well-timed Astral Divide, just separating them.
What I'm really worried about is whether or not Arrow, after their immediate resurgence, they're going to continue to plow through GotyPeeks, because I really don't want it to be this small resurgence from GotyPeeks where they only get a couple rounds and then we just see this dominant game, because that's really not something that entertains me, Taltrus. I love seeing games that really go the distance. Even if I am favoring one team to win, it doesn't matter if I've got friends in one of the squads. It's more fun if you see the struggle, right?
And GotyPeeks really should not have lost that round, considering they were facing against an eco, or at least a decent eco, right? The Arrow only had those sheriffs to play with. They still managed to get the better of them. And now GotyPeeks, it's his turn to shine with that Vandal, getting that double kill. Going to go for more, actually, but HCI is the one who's going to be finding that as Bravo trades him out. GotyPeeks, though, he's looking for blood. He is going to chase him with just a classic. I mean, he has the time to switch the Vandal should he choose to, but going to pick up the Sheriff, though, and he wants this kill with that Sheriff. Oh, man.
Listen, you doubted him for a second. Why is he not picking up the Vandal? That's why, because he wants to...
No, he had the Vandal.
Yeah,
he
sure.
chose to stick with the classic.
Yeah, but that's because he wanted to give us entertainment value.
Yeah, he probably thought the other team's not doing enough for it, so he might as well step up.
That was a lightning fast shot, by the way. He switched over to his gun as well within like a millisecond. That's probably the shortest time you can have in between firing off a shot and switching to your gun. Look at that.
Oh.
It reminds me of like those old school Call of Duty montages where you would just be quick scoping like a maniac. Oh no, actually,
I want to see what Hadal does with this operator. He needs to find the first shot, though, with 4 players positioned there. It's going to be interesting, but he has forced to back away as he sees a wolf and a drone coming at him. Oh, but Hadal, he goes back in for a kill onto Shani, and that's going to provide a lot of stopping power for GotyPeeks. They have the lockdown available, so should Arrow still commit on towards the A site, it's going to be very difficult for them, as the Killjoy, who will eventually make his way on towards over there, will be able to use the lockdown to secure this defuse.
Revealing area.
I've got your trail.
So much information being spotted. They are trying to use utility to make their way in, but the Seekers won't really net them too much of an advantage.
Spike down
Bally
A.
instead, he's just ripping them to shreds. 3 kills for the man, and he continues to plow through them. 4 kills. And that brings GotyPeeks one step closer.
I do not know how Bally managed to do that, but that was very well played. Perhaps, you know, he felt like he has something to prove with that Godchild flick that we saw, coming out with a play for his own and providing us with some much needed entertainment. But, you know, I'm glad this map is so close. I mean, 3 and 4.
To be perfectly honest, I had sort of lost faith in GotyPeeks to be able to put up a close performance against Arrow after the abysmal showing we saw in map number 1, especially with so many players really kind of missing from the scoreboard. But now, I'm holding out a candle. Let's hope for the best. I do want to see it come to a map number 3. And maybe we can get to see some weaknesses in Arrow as well, because so far they've looked flawless.
Oh, Hadal, he was good for the operator last round. Will he be able to do the same thing again? Has to be careful that there's no backup in the garage. And Hadal, he's simply waiting as 3 players have lined up for him, but none of them actually coming into his crosshair. Who is going to be the one to take that chance? This is going to be Protagonist as he does that, but under the cover of the smoke, the smoke, he was cancelled as well at the right time, and Hadal forced to back away. The Hunter's Fury comes out as well now, and trades go right, left, and center as neither team coming out in a very decisive way. But GotyPeeks, though, as soon as I said that, Protagonist got 2 kills right off the bat and will secure it with a 4th. We said that this young man was struggling earlier on, but looks like he's
after the
found his
map switch,
pace.
it's just been an entirely different scenario, right? 4 kills for him. And I think he's going to start climbing up the ladder very soon. And this is a change of pace. Now we're seeing MSK in the chair that is meant for him at the bottom of the scoreboard. And you're seeing Godchild at top. So peace has been restored. And Goty's on top as well. So
I can't wait for MSK to go back and hear us cast this game.
Oh God, he's going to hate me. You see,
But
peace has been restored. Now I
Yeah.
feel comfortable because Godchild is meant on the top of the circle.
And it's also the sort of healthy competition where you have 2 star players who love to frag out, you know, between Godchild and Protagonist. It's a sort of scenario where they're both lifting each other up in the sense they're both competing for those pickoffs, for that aggression.
Found the alarm bot down.
Now looking at the play of Arrow, heading into mid, Hadal misses a very crucial shot which allows Protagonist to move up closer. But that's 2 shots being missed, and you cannot allow so much room to breathe when you're playing off of the operator. The smoke will allow them to get the bomb down, and with the spike being planted, now the ball is in GotyPeeks' court to make a move. Bally getting ready with the stun. SR tries to move in late, but no Shani. The opposing Astra is ready to take care of it. And with 1 man being down, there's only 4 more to go. Arrow, they've got such good positions, but Bally and Goty don't care. They've gotten 2 kills. And with this lockdown, it makes things so much harder. Bravo is trying to defuse it before it happens. The gravity well is perfect. Godchild is doing so much damage. Shani continues to deliver, which means that GotyPeeks, they've only got 1 man remaining. There was nothing they could do after that lockdown had been planted. The only thing they possibly could have had is just completing that defuse.
Yeah, but that defuse was made impossible by that gravity well. It zoned him out. I mean, the lockdown wouldn't have gone off before the defuse, but the Astra just playing that so well, securing that round with that gravity well. Kudos to him, but this is troubling. You know, GotyPeeks had a lockdown of their own, and the way they give these sites away, Hadal simply cannot miss 2 shots, right? That's unheard of in any shooter game, in any competitive shooter game. You can miss 1 shot, but
yeah, with the operator, that's just inexcusable because you get 2. It's not even particularly difficult shots, and when that kind of freebie is being given up, missing those shots certainly means you're giving up the entire bomb site. And Arrow, they continue to get an in on every site. C is the name of the game right now. Shani, easy plan of the spike. Can I get a pat on the back or something for finally saying spike instead of bomb?
But I think the reason that GotyPeeks are giving them the site is to go for a 5v5 retake with that Killjoy lockdown. And we might. Oh no, actually, Goty just ran in front. He's going to fall.
Remember when you said in the pregame that for the lockdown to work, you actually need to have the Killjoy alive? Yeah, now you know why I said ouch.
But Hadal, it has the operator perfect weapon to secure the C long position, but his team needs to be able to do something as well. Oh no, the operator can't be the one defusing that gravity well. It's going to displace him, and Gotcha is going to come in from the garage and clean them all up.
I love how their entire game plan is just allowing Godchild and Protagonist to sort of roam loose, while sort of covering their exits with gravity wells and having the allowing Godchild to use his lockdown more often as well.
Yeah, I'm really not sure why they didn't go in with that lockdown. I mean, you had the perfect situation for it. You had 5 players alive. Use the lockdown, take control of the garage, take control of the site. You have an operator, so you can take control of the C long position and then secure the defuse. That seems very straightforward, but it did not happen that way.
As we head towards the last vestiges of the first half, you can see that GotyPeeks' time in this tournament is limited unless they start turning things around. Arrow, leaving the bomb behind. Spike, please correct me whenever I'm wrong. I'm trying to instill a new habit. Protagonist loses to the opposing Jet, so that's at least something that GotyPeek have to work off of.
Astra constantly sidestepping to give some sort of vision. SR, Mr. Saif trying to do his best to give information to his team, but his team is so far away, and Arrow, they're not going to be waiting for it. They're going to move in, all in towards the site. SR is safe for now inside of the smoke, but for how long? As his team, they're trading fire with the other team, and the trade's going all the way, favoring GotyPeek actually, as the Killjoy, the only one remaining, Godchild. He is going to come onto Bravo, but he did not get that kill. That, you know, I was going to create a narrative where I would say that Godchild is definitely the person to take a 1v3 fight.
Yeah, but no, he doesn't even get past the first one, even though it's a 1 versus 1. But you know what? You can't give him too
and
much flack
his
right now.
look at his KD.
Yeah, that's what I was about to
is 3.
say. Yeah, he's sitting on a 3 KD right now. He's got 15 kills, 5 deaths, just far apart from the rest of the server, and that's sort of been the story about Godchild throughout his Valorant career. Although he's not really consistently played on the best team, he's always been a contender for the best player. He's sort of been a king without his crown.
And now Arrow, they're going to go all in towards the A side. 5-player rush, no Killjoy utility to stop them this time around. As Protagonist, he's going to lead the fray thanks to that recon drone. The Killjoy lockdown deployed as well, but it's not covering the heaven position. The flank is going to fail as well as Hadal falls. Bravo trying his very best, trying to lay out some damage fire, but it's not working as MSK is going to take him out. And now the defender Killjoy of their own comes out, and MSK, he's still going for that plant. Spike is planted, but the defender Killjoy, there's no way to take that lockdown out as MSK falls as well. The Astra, the only one alive, will be safe from that lockdown, but can he stop the defuse? The gravity well is going to do it for some time, but no way to stop Bali. It was... I don't know, with the lockdown coming out, you stick to the plant, it just does not work out well.
That's still a great way for that's just a great way for GotyPeek to start off this second map. However, because they have 5 rounds, they're playing they were playing the defense, and now they get to play a bit more of the advantageous side. Perhaps we see a turn in how the rest of this game is going to be carried out, but Arrow, they want to end it in 2. But a quick reminder to the audience, there is a giveaway going on. All you have to do is like the stream and chat live to enter the draw, and you have a chance to win $20 US.
Second half now, and it's not a bad scoreline, 7-5, and with GotyPeek on the attacking side up on this map, they have the chance to actually secure some of these rounds. But they have to get their execution correct against Team Arrow. As Protagonist and Godchild, they will punish any mistake that they make.
Now, GotyPeek have the idea that MSK has already sorry, that
Here.
Arrow have already taken control of A long to some degree. And that's something that really scares me about the defense side of Arrow. It's that they're also going to get a lot more free reign to make their own moves. Go for these nasty pushes, the kind that Protagonist is known for. We'll see if that'll actually come to fruition on the server. Protagonist quickly managed to dash out of that very tough situation.
Oh, but he's not out of danger yet as the flash comes out, and GotyPeeks, they actually just all run away with Goti. The one leading the fray does deal a lot of damage onto Protagonist, now down to 23 HP. As the Jet will move forward, Hadal going to enter the B side, but not just finding anything, and his team was too far back to provide some cover. They still have not managed to secure the site, as all of them are going to fall. It's too late for them to go in, as Astra is the only one left. It's Goti himself who will fall. 8 and 5 now. Again, the first round, the pistol round, going in favor of Team Arrow. That was a crucial round to win for GotyPeek. And Arrow, in fact, his protagonist is going to pick himself up a Marshall. Now, I want to see what he does with that.
Yeah, they will have the advantage in terms of weaponry now. And that's something that I was really hoping wouldn't go wrong for GotyPeek. Simply because having the pistol round would allow them to get on equal footing with Arrow. So this is a bit of a snowball effect that Arrow can manage to build up for themselves, knowing they've managed to get the pistol round in the second half. How is that defense going to play out for them? I know that Arrow is going to have a much more complex defense setup with a lot more pushes than GotyPeek did, and it could be enough to catch them off guard. Looking at their attention, though, GotyPeek want to make their way to the A site. Spike will be following suit as well, while 3 players try to look for aggressors there. MSK has already taken so much damage.
Auf Wiedersehen.
A Godchild, he's keeping things under lock and key.
And I mean, for GotyPeek, they've already entered the site. The plant is going to go off, but it might be too late as they haven't secured any of these sites. But as I say that, SR and Goti both going to find the kill, but their positions, they're not really all that stable, as the entire high ground is in control of Team Arrow, and now they're going to descend. HCI is going to fall, but he's not going to find anything. Protagonist, meanwhile, shooting down with the Marshall, and the defuse is going to come out as well. That was a very haphazard attempt on the site for us.
Exactly why it doesn't work out. But no, that's still not terrible damage coming out from GotyPeek, because keep in mind, it's not like they had a full buy. They were running around with pistols, and with those being the conditions they were dealt, 3 members being taken out, still good enough for me. And this is where they start to have guns in their hands. They've got Vandals, they've got Phantoms, and they're actually going to be up against an Arrow that doesn't have as much money. So, bit of a bonus for Arrow.
This is absolutely a round that GotyPeek need to secure, especially the fact that they are overpowering their opponents with these heavier guns. And the fact that Arrow are about to reach double-digit figures for the scoreline.
Yeah, tournament life on the line now for GotyPeek. Only 4 rounds is what separates them from being sent home packing.
Okay, so this is the first attempt they're going to make on the C site on the second half over on the attacking side, but Protagonist, he's missed that shot. He's taking fire from all 3 people, but at least he's holding them in place for the rotations to come in as Hadal takes out Godchild. Protagonist, he simply cannot stay here without any support. His teammates stunned in the face, and Shani trying to hold his own inside of the smoke, trying to find some cover as GotyPeek descend upon the site. And all of Arrow, they're falling one by one. HCI, the only one remaining in the garage, will find the kill onto Hadal, but now his position is known. And with Goti still alive, those nano swarms, that spike is going to be very secure, as they won't even need to plant it before HCI falls.
Man, the worst thing about that whole exchange was that Shani had managed to find himself in a nook where he could have easily gotten maybe a double or a triple, but Bally actually circled all the way around just to find him and make sure he doesn't get up to any of those shenanigans. Now with 3-round deficit, still very recoverable, knowing that GotyPeek are playing the more advantageous side now. But we still have yet to see the defense from Arrow. That's my big question mark.
You know, when we look at the scoreboard, the 3-round deficit, it's only because of Gottchild, because the rest of the score is entirely even. So if they find a way to shut him down, then perhaps that is going to be the key to them coming back into this game. But that's, you know, that's a very big if.
Yeah, whether or not Gottchild will be able to sustain that kind of performance now that he's switched sides, it's not a guarantee. There's no certainty behind it.
He is aiming down a short though, and that's going to force their position towards say long. But that's where the Killjoy is. No Killjoy utility there though, so that is good news if you are GotyPeek. But with that vision, with that fire exchange, Arrow are going to realize what they're trying to do. They are trying to go in, but GotyPeek still being so patient about this, not making a move, just throwing a bit of utility here and there. As the rest of Arrow are also holding their own positions, but it's towards the back of the site now. Still flashes, and now the Jet is going to go in.
Oh, this is going to be so chaotic as they start to move in. The cavalry is already setting foot in the sand, but Bravo, he's the first horseman to take off ahead, and Hadal will very quickly follow suit. Arrow, now in a 2 versus 4, is going to be such a difficult endeavor trying to carve this one out, and with one of their members, their last member actually, being all the way far away. There's nothing they can do. GotyPeek, that was actually pretty impeccable, all things considered. Arrow had full information. They were peeking down C long. They had 3 players at the ready. The Seekers from Sky actually made sure they had full information as well, because they can tell exactly where the Seekers are going. So, all things considered, that was so well done from GotyPeek.
Yeah, and I mean, they played that one patiently as well, right? Oh, Protagonist, he has an operator. He simply cannot lose this, but Hadal, he is going to chase him down. I'm not sure why he still made that attempt. I mean, do not have the economy to go for that buy again. You just picked up that operator and you've lost it already. And your team might just suffer for it. It's only a 2-round deficit, right? So they can't get too complacent. And like we mentioned, if they're able to shut down Gottchild, then that's really going to be their key, their way of entering into the site. Keep him locked down, and you remove some of the deficit that you're facing.
These couple of rounds can be too hard for GotyPeek if they've managed to get this far. Just a matter of capitalizing on the advantage. Hadal, first skill secured. Just a matter of time before these pistols fall. So far, Talha, I'm very impressed by how GotyPeek have turned things around. And by the way, the player I was giving a lot of flack earlier, Goty himself.
He's doing a lot better.
Yeah. He's actually turned things around for himself pretty well.
As GotyPeek, I mean, they're primed to take this. It is an attack-sided map. They're on the attacking side. The majority of their rounds, they have won in the second half. And they are well primed to win this next round as well. Have to be careful about Gottchild though. The turret is going to spot SR out, but he has a Vandal, he should be fine. The main concern is though he needs to spot out the Killjoy, and he will do that, be able to find a kill onto him as GotyPeek descend upon the B site. Very swift cleanup for them.
Although it actually kind of looked like the fights would be messy because of how close quarters they were, but the pistols never actually came out on top. And Gottchild is actually heavily being contested by Hadal's presence on the server right now. I know it's not exactly a fair comparison because they're playing 2 very different agents, but that's where my second point comes in. It's that Protagonist simply isn't putting up the numbers as he should. He's sitting on 8 kills, and at the start of the game, we saw Protagonist actually turn up quite heavily, which is why we even discussed that Protagonist was having a much better game than he was previously. But no, if you look at the game now, he's not really gotten past those first few kills.
And when you consider the fact that Protagonist is a very resource-heavy player, right? Because he loves to play with that operator. It's the second time around in the second half where he's picked it up. The first time, though, we saw it 2 rounds ago where he gave it up for nothing. And now he's grabbed it again. And with the scoreline this close, with them only 1 round ahead of them, should he lose this operator now, should they not make any use of it, then they're going to really struggle, and they might lose out on this map if they don't find anything here right now.
Got a bit of a technical timeout, though. Shouldn't be too long before things are resolved on that front. But in the meantime, make sure you're liking the stream and you are interacting, because that does make you eligible for a giveaway for $20 US, and that's for up to 5 people. So make sure you're doing that. Helps out a lot with the viewership as well, and it really helps the esports scene as a whole when you're interacting and keeping the energy up as far as the audience goes. But Taha, is there anything you would like to see being changed by Arrow now that GotyPeeks are starting to no longer look as weak as they did on map number 1?
It's all the question about whether Protagonist can find his footing. I mean, we both know that he's more than capable of it. We both know that he's more than capable of fragging out just as much as Godchild does, but just not able to do it. But, you know, MSK, one of the things that I was talking about, he's one of the veteran captains of the Pakistani scene, and he's a very respected captain for a reason, because he is sort of like, you know, the glue that holds the team together. And if there's anyone that can enable Protagonists to step up, it's MSK. So I don't know how he does it, obviously. I don't play with Protagonists, but he should have an idea, man.
And with the timeout being subsided, I think they've got a pretty good idea of how they want to play this now. You know, they get a chance for a breather, and maybe that's a bit of a blessing in disguise for them. They get, maybe MSK gets a chance to pump his teammates up. But GotyPeeks are dangerously close to taking the second map now. Still haven't gotten the advantage, but with the side advantage and how their economy is, they might as well cross that mark as well. Protagonist. Once again, very resource heavy, but he hasn't connected a crucial shot just yet. We'll get a second chance at a pot shot. And as these players are pressed through the smoke, oh no, Protagonist has been out-aimed by a rifle, and Adal has to have his chest all puffed, knowing that he's a Chad in this scenario. Just runs out like it's nothing. But MSK still has a chance to bring things together. No, it's Goty to put him in the grave. It's a 3 versus 4 for Arrow to try to bring things back together. But will they even go for this retake? It's very risky, knowing that ultimates will be available for GotyPeeks as well. The Hunter's Fury plus the lockdown, that basically means that the site is untouchable unless they can take out those 2 players. And the only way that'll happen if they actively try to block out every other angle and just try to attack A long. And they simply don't have the information on it. And if you layer on SR's flank on top of that, this is looking impossible.
Oh, the Hunter's Fury is going to come out for that plant secure. And there's just no reasonable way they can make this happen outside of a flank, but they didn't even have that going. I mean, in fact, it was GotyPeeks who actually got the flank on Arrow, coming in from behind from the defender's spawn side, taking out 2 of those players, save for Godchild. But he had a 3 KDA before, now it's less than 2.
Yeah, sorry, I just looking at that again, man. Very nicely done by Hadal.
The operator, though, again, not finding its mark, not finding any use. Those were 2 shots that he missed. I mean, surely, you know, we criticized GotyPeeks when they had an operator and they missed 2 shots, and we saw just how quickly their sight fell after he had missed those 2 shots, right? So, Protagonist knows that, or rather Team Arrow knows that that is a mistake that will cost you heavily. It'll cost you the round at the very least, and if you're taking a very aggressive position on A long, then you need to be making something happen with it.
To be perfectly honest, if we didn't see this technical timeout come out, I think Arrow would have taken a tactical one regardless, because they need to get their strategy in order. And it's really not even just about their strategy. I think they need to shuffle some of their pieces because although Protagonist is a very talented player, he's simply not hitting the shots right now. And maybe I would like to see that operator in somebody else's hands, or perhaps enable him in a different way by allowing him to play rifles, maybe giving him a more loose role, allowing to aggress further. So far, he's really not been showing the brilliance that he's grown his fans accustomed with.
And it's really, when you talk about pressure, when you talk about choking, you usually do that against the bigger teams, right? You usually do that against Team Exploit or Team Salt, but not against teams that you would be fairly confident against. But
My bot.
the timeout going to run out now, and we are going to resume as GotyPeeks make their way into the garage. The Jet leading the fray as the rest of his team backs away, leaving him there to hold his position as they make their way towards C long. But that's where Godchild is situated. The perfect person to find that opening frag. As the rest of Team Arrow make their way to provide him with some support. Hadal going to come out of the side. The lockdown going to come out as well. The attacker Killjoy, and with this they're going to go all in. Godchild though going to take out Hadal. The attacker Killjoy still taking down. They have to back away, forced back to the defender spawn side.
Right there.
Arrow, this is actually quite close for them, and they have a very reasonable chance at getting double digits before their opposition does. And this time there's only one ultimate available. Want to see if this ends up working out for them. Protagonist, the knives are out, missed a few, but eventually connects. He's looking for more. Doesn't quite hit the head, which means that Goty and Valley can immediately chime in to pick up the final two members. That shouldn't have happened.
That should not have happened. Protagonist should have gotten that second kill as well. The fact that he's struggling to hit his mark, the fact that, Godchild in this later part of the game, if Godchild is the first point of contact, then it's only reasonable that he gets one kill, right? Because if you're the first point of contact, you are going to get traded out. But the fact that the rest of his team is not able to make anything happen, I mean, it's not just Protagonist or Godchild, it's SGI who's starting to fall off as well. 15 and 14, we're used to seeing him get those triple kills. But it's just not happening.
Blocking sight.
You are divided.
GotyPeeks, they've got their eyes dead set on C, and Protagonist is playing up very close this time. No operator, look at how HZI and MSK are just ripping apart their opposition. And this time, they don't even see them. Straight through the smoke. That was just too well read.
I do not know how MSK did that. Knowing MSK, I don't even know. I don't even think he knows how he did that. But it worked. I mean, they're back in it 10-10 now. Have the guns to go forward into the next round
Listen,
as well.
man, if I know MSK right now, I already know he's saying Jessa Menesekayatha to his squad, even though he has no idea how they got that.
I really hope he goes back and listens to our cast. But it's a new round now as GotyPeeks have cushioned themselves over here, and Protagonist, he's leading the fray. This is what he loves to do best, get those aggressive angles, but he's very isolated, so if he misses those shots, if he doesn't get a single kill, then he's going to leave his site open to entry, and he realizes this. He's going to back away now.
Right there.
Movement towards A. Most of the time when they've actually gone to A, it has worked out for them. Is it going to be deja vu all over again? And with the Rolling Thunder also being primed up, Bally does have an opportunity to open up the site entirely for GotyPeeks. They will be taking their sweet time, however. There's only 50 seconds left on the clock, and they haven't even gotten the first point of contact. And look at how the rotation's moving in, which will allow 4 members to be already be on deck when that A push eventually comes in. And there's more utility being deployed. That's got to be information as well being gained by HZI, popping out flashes, because there's going to be the audio cue. But now GotyPeeks realize that they've just got to move in.
And they're going to go full brute force their way into the site, but MSK get taking down Hadal with the shock dart. That's their star player, and Bravo is going to go for that
Oh,
plant,
no.
but the Nano Swarm is going to stop him. MSK launching that Hunter's Fury. Protagonist getting the kill onto Bravo, and with this, Cody's attempt at the site has been crippled. Even though they do manage to find 3 kills, Arrow is going to finish the round off.
That was so well done from Arrow. They knew they had their utility down under lock and key, but the big difference maker there was HZI quickly realizing that he could get a lot of information by just tossing out a little birdie, and just the audio cue of that immediately signaled that that's a very late round A push. And they had all members available on that rotation. So Arrow once again come out on top with the advantage.
Protagonist, he has an operator again, and this is so close to match
please,
point.
no, not again, Protagonist. Don't do this to us. We need to see that rifle come out.
Oh, actually, he
Ooh.
gets the kill onto Hadal. There we go. There's the Protagonist we know.
Oh, Shani takes full advantage of the recon to be able to pick up Goty, and he also gets some additional damage.
Here.
Protagonist has set himself up like an eagle in his nest, and he knows that there's someone there. He has an idea. He just does not know that the person is tucked himself away towards the left side rather than the long position, but Bravo is going to provide that distraction for him. The recon bolt not going to find him out, and with this, I don't think they realize the Protagonist has his cursors. Oh, but he removed the scope at the wrong time.
He's going to take damage because of the molly, and Bally manages to actually take his life away. How far can they take this? They are in the disadvantage. Can they continue to deliver and actually get onto the C site with no casualties? Bally nearly gets caught out. He eventually does because MSK is too quick on the trigger. There's only one man remaining, and that's SR. Can Safe get it? No, not at all. It's Shani to deliver, and now Arrow is 1 round away from being in Islamabad in the LAN Finals.
That was an unfortunate misplay for Protagonist, but the good thing is, you know, with the operator that he picked up, he took away Hadal, arguably the most important player right now, at least for this match, for GotyPeeks. And even though he died later, it provided enough of a buffer in the form of Arrow's rotation that they were able to take the round away from GotyPeeks, landing themselves onto match point, 1 round away from securing their place in the Islamabad LAN Finals, as it's GotyPeeks' turn to take a timeout.
Is that tactical timeout going to be enough to give them the fortitude to bring it together against Arrow, take it to map 3? I mean, before they even do that, they're going to have to go through an entire overtime where Arrow will be fully locked and loaded with regards to money.
They do have the lockdown though, so if you play the lockdown really well, then that's almost a guaranteed round win. But you need to position yourself for it.
The problem is that it's not just GotyPeeks who have the lockdown, it's also that Arrow have their own lockdown, which can very easily negate its effect.
Placing alarm bot.
But now, I mean, it's a bit of a default position for GotyPeeks. The garage there, they're not really making a move over anywhere, as Protagonist has stationed himself over in the C-long position. He is going to come on to the kill choice just a little bit to the right. Oh, and he does
It's almost as if you asked him to.
Oh, but you know, I'm sorry about that one, but Protagonist, I'm glad he's found his footing in the operator. I mean, it was a bit too close for comfort in one of the last rounds, but
You can see that GotyPeeks, they're feeling so pressure right now. It's Protagonist finally
Spike
stepping
down,
up when the
attacker
pressure is the
spawn.
highest. Arrow, they do not want to choke this out. GotyPeeks, they are so close to being sent packing home, but Hadal,
Revealing area.
a ray of hope emerges. Can he continue to deliver? Hadal missing quite a few more shots, 3 points of health remaining for the man, but they have managed to get onto the Beast site. The spike is being planted, and they're quickly getting into positions to allow themselves to overpower Arrow, but they do still have an advantage in the hands of Arrow. Jet has her ultimate. Astra's got the Astral Divide as well, so potentially defusing the bomb could be an easy endeavor if they can time their utility right. Valley has flashbangs ready to allow them to move in. Protagonist finally gets taken down, but he's already gotten 3 kills. Is that going to be enough? HZI takes one more, and it's just Bravo remaining. Not for long, because it's Janny who gets the final kill, and it's going to be Arrow who win in a 2-0 fashion against GotyPeeks.
That was a very clean victory, at least the first map though. The second map, I'm not really sure what went wrong for Team Arrow, as GotyPeeks seem to have, secured 10 rounds for themselves. That's certainly not a position where you want to be if you're Team Arrow, especially considering the fact that you're going to be going up against the likes of Team Exploit, you're going to be going against the likes of, well, now we have Clarity Esports up there, right, that Team Arrow now has to face. So if I were Team Arrow, I would have to step up, even considering the performance we just saw.
Yeah, I don't think in a match against a team like GotyPeeks they should have struggled this much. But at the same time, you do also have to give a lot of credit to GotyPeeks because they definitely looked a lot stronger than we anticipated them to be. You could see that my hopes that we would see Arrow sweat, they did eventually come true, although unfortunately we didn't get to see a map number 3. But any final thoughts, Talha?
I'm not gonna get to see them. They had a plan. They were gonna come to the Islamabad finals. They were gonna shave their heads. We were all looking forward to it.
That's the thing, though. What eludes me is what their actual commitment was. Was it just having a mustache, or were they just talking, or was the hair on their head still going to be intact? I'm not really sure about that. But regardless of that, unfortunately, we're not going to see a bunch of mustache gentlemen playing on LAN. That is something I'm super sad about, Talha. But at the end of the day, I think Arrow absolutely deserved that victory. And now it's going to be such a stacked roster as far as the teams in Islamabad go. And I do believe you should be able to pull them up very soon, but it is going to be Exploit, Fear Legends. Instead of Salt, it'll be Clarity in a very... I think it was a bit of an upset. So in a surprising fashion, it'll be Clarity instead of Salt, and finally it'll be Team Arrow who overpowered GotyPeeks. But which of these teams are you really looking forward to seeing, Talha?
It's 2 weeks. Clarity have improved so much. I'm sure they're going to improve even more. I really do want to see a situation where, okay, sure, I do not think Clarity are good enough just yet to take games away from Team Exploit, but I think, perhaps the match between Team Arrow and Clarity might just be even closer than the one against Salt.
Yeah, I think so as well, because now these teams are so closely matched. But there's definitely still a king in the Pakistani scene that has so far been left unmatched, and I think that's the one that really sticks out to most of us, right? It's Exploit that has really had a difficult time ever being defeated by any of these squads, and from their perspective, they're a squad that has stuck around for relatively longer, and they've shown more consistent performances as opposed to the rest of these teams who have now qualified but haven't really proven themselves with their current rosters. Yes, they've come through to the quarterfinals, but that just means they're better than the teams that we've seen so far, right? We haven't seen Exploit go up against Arrow, we haven't seen Fear Legends go up against them, and when it comes down to LAN, the entire environment is going to be absolutely electric. I think just those little factors like Exploit having a player that is going to be turning up to LAN for the first time, King and Trans being such a seasoned player when it comes to playing every single LAN. There's barely any LANs he's actually lost out, so that's a massive storyline for us to cover, but all of that is going to come through when we eventually meet you all in Islamabad for the LAN Finals. But Talha, I think we have droned on for quite a bit long. So do you have any closing thoughts? Is there anything you're particularly looking forward to seeing?
I mean, it's not so much about what I want to see, it's about what I don't want to see. I don't want to see Team Exploit win single. I don't want it to be a one-sided affair. I don't want them to snowball their way to victory. I want, I'm glad for them if they're winning, but they need to fight for it at this point.
Absolutely, and we do get a chance to look at the map MVP before we sign out. I nearly forgot about that little bit, to be honest. Talha. I kind of forgot that we just got done with the map because I was so excited about the action that will eventually unfold in Islamabad. But it was Godchild that was able to stick it out for long enough to get 21 kills and 5 First Bloods and secure the win for Team Arrow in a game that was actually quite close. So, to be perfectly honest, I think without his contribution, Arrow could have even lost out.
I think they would have lost, especially considering the fact that, sure, Protagonist picked up the pace later on, but he was really struggling in those earlier rounds. And MSK himself didn't do as well as he did in the first game, where he went absolutely ham. And Godchild, if he did not have that 3 KDA at the start of those early rounds, then perhaps things would have gone a lot differently.
Yeah, for sure. And had it gone to map number 3, I think it could have been anybody's game, because GotyPeeks, yes, they didn't look as seasoned as Arrow did, but they did start to pick up their pace, and had it gone to map number 3, I think we would have still seen a lot of action unfold in a similar fashion as to what we saw when we saw Clarity versus Salt Esports. But yeah, that was still an amazing performance by Godchild. And to be perfectly honest, Protagonist, for the most part, left a lot to be desired. He did pick up the pieces in those final few rounds, but and it's not like that was too little too late, because it still ended up netting them the victory.
Yeah.
It was a great time to step up, in fact. But if that had been the case from the get-go, if he wasn't missing shots, if he was getting the openers, I think it would have never gotten this close in the first place.
Definitely. I think if Godchild and Protagonist really go at it, combined with the captaincy prowess that MSK has shown, combined with the control that HCI displays, then this is in fact a team that can actually put up a fight against Team Exploit. This is a team that I believe can actually win against them as well.
Yeah, but for anybody that has been following the action, before we head into the format, before we get a chance to look at the final teams, we will be quickly comparing the stats of these two squads. And if you look at it, I'm not sure what's going on with MSK's KDA and stuff right now, because there's just no obliques in between them. But it was Godchild and 8ZI leading the charge for the side of Team Arrow, and for GotyPeeks, Hadal and Valley were really putting up the numbers. And personally, I'm really happy to see that Goty had a completely different performance as to what he had in the first map, because like I think we've been brutally honest before. Goty really wasn't performing too well. I think he had 4 kills in the first 4 rounds, and then after that he completely dropped off. So that was disappointing to see, but that resurgence, that made me really happy.
Yeah, he came back in a terrific way, and especially on an agent that, as I was talking about, Killjoy really needs to stay alive because of the utility. And I don't know if he heard me or not, but he did exactly that, able to secure his team some of those rounds as well. And again, with that said, I really do hope that they stick together. Certainly Goty did put up enough of a performance to me that shows, if you can give Team Arrow a fight, you can give anyone in the circuit a fight, save for perhaps Team Exploit.
Yeah, but I think it's about time we put a wrap on these quarterfinals. And for anyone that needs a quick recap on what's been going on, Thala and I have been covering the quarterfinals. It has been a long road for many of these teams that have battled it out all the way to the quarterfinals. And yesterday and today we have been covering the top 8 teams that made it this far. And through the madness, it was Team Perfectionists, Team WDR, Team GotyPeeks, and Team Salt Esports that ended up dropping out. And they won't be seeing you guys in Islamabad. But the ones that did make it through to the end, they definitely deserved it. Those were very close games. Those were very hotly contested, especially today. I think Talha, the narrative yesterday was relatively one-sided.
Yeah.
But today it didn't really feel like that. And I'm really happy we got to see Clarity versus Salt in the quarters. But at the same time, perhaps I would have really liked to see it on LAN, and that's something I'm a little sad about.
I would want to see the underdog win on LAN for sure. That's something that I would not want to miss out on. But as we're talking about LANs, the last big LAN that happened in Pakistan was the Mountain Dew Gamers Arena for Counter-Strike and Dota. And, that was a very hyped event. I really did like that. All the players on the stage, playing the games out there. The crowd was really into it. The casters, the commentators, they were hyping it up really well as well. And I am looking forward to the fact that Galaxy Racers has given us this opportunity once again.
Yeah, we really haven't. I mean, ever since the start of the whole COVID pandemic, we haven't seen the tournament as big as this one. In fact, even if you don't consider that aspect at all, we've never seen a tournament as big as the one that Galaxy Racer is hosting. I mean, 20 million rupees up for grabs against in 4 games. That is unheard of, and that's really helping the Pakistani esports scene grow. But remember, guys, if you do want more tournaments like this one, if you do want the Pakistani esports scene to flourish, you've got to go ahead and help out in the viewership. Make sure you're interacting in the comments. Make sure you're make sure you're leaving a lot of likes. And if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, make sure you're using the hashtag GamersGalaxy every time you see the stream, and you're participating all these little community events, all these little community giveaways, because viewership at the end of the day is key for tournaments like this one, and they really help out. But it is time for us to give a final recap on the teams that have made it this far. It is the final 8 teams that made it to the quarters, and well, Talha, personally, I think we have droned on quite a bit about the on the final 8 already before the format graphic has even popped up. But who are you in particular looking forward to? I know, I think Clarity is the one standout because we have no idea how they're going to perform. But other than that,
I mean, I really want to see, anyone give a fight to Team Exploit. Like, honestly, whether that's Dem Devils, whether that's Clarity, whether that's Team Arrow, I don't know how they do it. I don't know what they have to do. Practice for 24 hours for 14 days straight. Or rather, Fear Legends, practice for 14 days and try to give Team Exploit that fight, man. It's been too long. They aren't they getting tired sitting in their throne? Like,
yeah. The best part about sitting in a throne is that you're not standing up, so you're not getting tired.
Yeah. Okay, isn't MSK tired of not being on that throne?
I think he's not tired because he's comfortably sitting in that bottom frag chair.
So really, all we have is Clarity and Fear Legends. So I hope one of those 2 teams do pack a punch. I hope one of those 2 teams does improve a bit.
I think personally, what I'm really looking forward to seeing is Fear Legends in that semifinal. So that's something we're going to be seeing on the first day when we do see the Islamabad LAN Finals. And what really stands out to me for Fear Legends is that they have 2 really experienced players when it comes to LAN, Criminal and Trans, but the rest of them, it's not like they're top dogs when it comes to playing in the LAN environment. So some of the LAN buff that the likes of Trans get, that Trans gets, it's part of it is taken away by the fact that his team isn't as experienced as the rest of the squad. So like that little factor we were talking about with regards to Exploit having some inexperienced members when it comes to playing offline events, I think it's also a factor that's going to affect Fear Legends. So who's going to win out? That online debuff for Trans, the LAN buff? Who knows?
LAN is a completely different ball game. I mean, everything goes haywire when you're on LAN. The mouse settings, everything, you're sweating. It's
the
weird.
Crowd, the big one.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest one ever.
Yeah, and the crowd, like, it's probably going to be bigger than anything else because Galaxy Racers, the event that they're trying to host, they have a whole bunch of different things. It's not just the games. They have console games, they have concerts every day, they have influencer meet and greets. It's basically designed for anyone who wants to be entertained. It's being held at a massive expo as well. So it's not just about video gaming, it's like a whole proper well-packed event, and I have a feeling that when these teams see just how big it is, in person, they're really going to have to amp it up.
Yeah, I think that's entirely going to change the perception of Pakistani esports, just knowing that there's this massive event with 20 million rupees up for grabs. Even from like a societal standpoint, people are going to view gaming entirely differently when there's such a massive broadcast, such a massive talent pool of players, casters, people attending, and when there's so much involvement with regards to TV and whatnot. I think it's really going to set a precedent for what esports can potentially be in Pakistan.
Yeah, and considering the fact that it's going to be on 10 sports as well, these players, it's a big stage, you know, it's a lot of coverage, a big stage, a lot of exposure, and with that comes a lot of responsibility as suddenly, you know, you have to have some of that competitive spirit, you have to have maintain that professionalism as well, you know, and it's something that we're still getting accustomed to. These teams, you know, a lot of young players, a lot of young talent, still getting accustomed to, so we're really going to have to see how these guys cater to it.
Yeah, but I think that does put a wrap on the day. These were some incredible quarterfinals for us to cover and for you guys to watch, and I'm really glad that there are so many people tuning into the stream. Honestly, for just the quarterfinals, the turnout, I was looking at the viewer count, I was looking at all the people interacting in the comments as well. The turnout has been absolutely amazing, and I do want you guys to keep supporting us. Make sure you're interacting, make sure you're chatting every time you see one of Galaxy Racer's tournaments turn up, and especially when we do go ahead and stream the LAN Finals. That's where most of the support is going to be required, especially with the whole crowd and knowing that that is probably going to be the most televised and broadcasted esports event in Pakistan. So the more power you can add to it, the more Pakistani the more Pakistan's esports scene is going to flourish. But I think that does put a wrap on everything, Talha. So thank you guys for tuning in. It is hopefully going to be the same faces when we do end up in the Islamabad LAN Finals, but no guarantees on that. We are going to be catching you next time in about 2 weeks' time. Stay tuned.